For over 100 years, stories have swirled in this country about the death of children in the residential school system. Just the name, the Missing Children Project, is ominous enough. But today, new figures were released claiming at least 3,000 Aboriginal children were killed at the government-run schools, mostly from preventable disease. CTV's Danielle Hamamjan has that story.
It was never a question of if any of these children died during the residential school years, but rather how and how many.
The Government of Canada sincerely apologizes.
Following a historic government apology in the House of Commons, digging began through nearly 1 million files, including journals once belonging to nuns. In all, about 150,000 children were at some point part of the system. Some never made it out. Some did, only to die on their way home. Like the 4 BC boys under the age of 10 who were found huddled together on the ice, lightly clad for the bitterly cold trek, one wearing only one shoe.
We are, I think, over the hump of denial about how awful the residential school system was for young Aboriginal kids.
How awful, too, was the level of ignorance of school officials, who research now shows helped spread diseases. Few knew sick children should be kept separate from the healthy ones. One report handed to the government in 1907 talked about crowding, malnutrition, and a complete lack of knowledge of the meaning of ventilation. The author was Chief Medical Officer Peter H. Bryce.
I just shake my head that we're still talking about this 106 years later. It should have been dealt with 100 years ago.
The very fact that someone of that period would speak up on behalf of First Nations people in and of itself is probably not typical. But second, his findings were even shocking to people of that period despite that milieu.
Bryce found that the death rate in schools was 24% a year. In one school, over 75% were dead by age 16.
Many of those warnings were ignored by Ottawa. Now, the research into the fatalities is far from complete, and as more documents come to light, the number of dead children is expected to grow. Lisa.
Okay, Danielle Hamamjan in Ottawa.